tens of thousands raising their voices, demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu strike a deal to bring home the hostages alive. This outpouring of grief, anger, and frustration prompted by the deaths of 6 Israeli hostages, whose bodies were recovered over the weekend.
Hundreds of thousands of Israelis took to the streets over the weekend in Israel, fueled by rage over the deaths of hostages and the Israeli government's unwillingness to agree to a ceasefire with Hamas. Now, the Israeli military said it had located and recovered the 6 bodies of the Israeli hostages from an underground tunnel in the Rafah area in the Gaza Strip and returned them to the Israeli territory. Israel's health ministry said the 6 abductees were murdered by Hamas terrorists in a number of short-range shots, and that forensic examination indicated that they had been killed in the last few days. But just as the press is urged to not take what the Palestinian health ministry has to say at face value, I would say that you should also do the same when it comes to the Israeli side. They have been caught in lies before. We don't know for sure, and we are unable to confirm what they're saying about how these 6 individuals were killed. Now, protesters insisted a ceasefire deal could have saved their lives, and I happen to agree with them on that. In fact, 3 of the 6 murdered hostages were supposed to be freed during the first round of a ceasefire deal that Hamas agreed to. Even without a permanent ceasefire, they had agreed to it, but Netanyahu rejected it after suddenly adding new provisions, including full control of the Philadelphia corridor. At that point, Hamas rejected the deal. Only 4 American hostages are believed to still be alive in Gaza. 23-year-old Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Polin was among the bodies recovered from Gaza. His family fought pretty tirelessly to secure a ceasefire deal in order to save their son, but they spoke at last month's DNC, the Democratic National Convention. They did everything they could, but Netanyahu very clearly does not have an interest in going forward with a ceasefire deal. He wants the war to go on. He wants the war to spread to other parts of the Middle East, and that's the way that he's able to secure his, position of power in Israel. So he's gonna keep doing this. He never engaged in good faith to begin with. Now, the remaining 5 hostages were identified as Carmel Gat, 40 years old, Eden Yerushalmi, 24 years old, Alexander Lubanov, 32 years old, Almog Sarusi, 27, and Ori Danino, 25 years old. Cenk, go ahead.
Hey, don't scroll away. Come back. Because before the video continues, we just want to urge you to lend your support to TYT. You power our honest reporting. You do it at tyt.com/team, and we love you for it. So, you read the stories of the hostages and how they were shot in cold blood, and it's impossible not to grieve for them and feel great sympathy for them, and that's good. You should. There's any decent human being would grieve for these poor folks captured at a concert. You can imagine yourself at a concert. As I read their bios, it sounds a lot like people we know. I wish we had time to read you nearly 41,000 names and tell you all of their bios and all the parents that are grieving for them and the kids that are grieving for them. But 1, we don't have that time. 2, we don't have all the biographical information ready to go on dead Palestinians because the Palestinians' lives aren't that important here in America. So these 6 lives that are getting massive attention, as they should, how much attention should the 41,000 lives get? Well, it's getting a fraction of that. So, and for understandable reasons, hey, there's video of it. Hey, that's their family member. We can have them as a guest. Hey, that they sound and talk like us and live like us. I get it. I don't want you to not have sympathy for those folks. I want you to have at least as much sympathy for the 41,000 dead. So for most of you, that's easy, super easy. You're a decent human being. That's not gonna be a problem for you. For everybody in Washington, it's not even close. They'd kill 400,000 to get these 6 back. So, because certain lives were worth more than other lives in America, that's just a fact.
Well, they're paid handsomely to feel that way, but let's just turn to Netanyahu and the other extremists within the Israeli government who also don't seem to care at all I'm not even talking about the Palestinians. They don't seem to care at all about the hostages.
No, that's so true.
The hostages have been nothing more than a massive inconvenience for people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, for people like Benjamin Netanyahu. These are individuals who do not care at all about the hostages. If they cared about the hostages, they wouldn't have cut off food and fuel to the Gaza Strip, which of course impacts the Palestinians, but also impacts the hundreds of hostages that were taken to Gaza. They wouldn't do aerial bombardments knowing full well that the Israeli hostages, much like the Palestinian civilians, could be killed and harmed by those aerial bombardments.
Ben-Gvir is a terrorist, and they're both on the side of ethnic cleansing. And he's literally adjudicated as supporting terrorism, and the Israelis elected a bunch of terrorists and put them in their cabinet. Now we can't get them out. And even though almost all of, well, I shouldn't say almost all of Israel, but a huge chunk of Israel disagrees now with Netanyahu and wants a ceasefire deal. So a family member of one of the hostages made a series of great points on CNN. I'm glad they go out there. You need to understand that these are real people, etc.
We actually have video of him.
So yeah, let's show you the video first, and then I want to fill in some of the facts that he brought up in this segment and others.
So this is Gil Dickman. He is a relative of a hostage and is absolutely furious with Netanyahu's decision to put himself before the lives of the hostages. Let's take a look.
We know that Hamas has agreed to a deal at some point, and Israel was the one putting on more and more terms and actually postponing the deal. And right now we know the decisions that our Prime Minister Netanyahu has made it impossible for Carmel and other hostages to return and put their lives in great danger. And that's what killed them.
So look, Dickman isn't wrong about what he just said there. And in fact, seasoned veteran war journalist Jeremy Scahill recently uncovered documents looking into the back and forth in regard to the ceasefire negotiations. And he found that Hamas was actually willing to let go of one of their so-called non-negotiables, which was a permanent ceasefire. They demanded a permanent ceasefire. Israel would not agree to that. Eventually, Hamas said, okay, fine, then we'll take the demand for a permanent ceasefire out, and then take a look at what Israel, or specifically Benjamin Netanyahu, did after that. Take a look.
President Joe Biden in May announced that that he was going to present a framework for a ceasefire that had actually been presented by Israel. And he said, now the onus is on Hamas to accept this deal. Hamas then looks at it. They gave some notes on it then, within the next 10 days. And they said that they wanted to be able to negotiate a permanent ceasefire in the first phase of the deal. By July 2nd, Hamas had actually backed off of what it was one of their most important demands and made what they thought was a really big concession by taking that language out of what they were insisting on. And then Netanyahu bombards the process with a whole slew of new conditions, including an indefinite presence of Israeli troops in the Philadelphia corridor.
So anyone who claims that Hamas is not agreeing to the ceasefire is lying and intentionally covering up the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu has failed to engage in these ceasefire negotiations in good faith. He doesn't want a ceasefire. He wants this war to spread, which is, by the way, evident in the fact that he is having the IDF now attack or open up other war fronts in areas like Lebanon, for instance. They've bombed Syria. Obviously, they've done bombings in Iran. I mean, he is so desperate, Cenk, for this war to escalate. And he is not in any way interested in a ceasefire deal, which is why you had the mass protests in Israel over the weekend to begin with.
All right, so much to say. So first, they say, Iran's a huge regional danger. They could attack nearby countries. The country saying that is the one that just attacked 3 nearby countries, if you count Palestine, 4 nearby countries, and hit all 3 of them in their capitals. Didn't care at all. Yeah, we'll bomb your capital. We'll kill people inside your capital. We don't care. Oh, you're the one agitating for war. No, Benjamin Netanyahu is definitively the one agitating for war. If it hurts your feelings that, oh no, you have to blame Iran more every time. You have to blame Hamas more every time. No, you don't. He's killed 40 times the number of people that Hamas has. He's bombed way more countries than any mullah in Iran. He's more of a warmonger than any mullah in Iran. If you want to cry about it, go ahead, but you're crying about facts. Okay, so now let's turn to facts that another Israeli-American hostage's father said on CNN. Same segment, a little bit later, Jonathan Deckel-Chen came out and he pointed out, look, first of all, give the Israelis credit. That's the equivalent of 35 million Americans being in the streets this weekend. So that's over 10% of the country. That's a giant number, and that's Israelis saying enough. Second of all, he pointed out, wait, Netanyahu and our negotiators, meaning in his case the Israeli negotiators, never mentioned the Philadelphia corridor for 8 months in these negotiations. Never once mentioned it. And now 8 months into the process, they're like, oh yeah, we need that corridor. It's absolutely important, it's vital. Well, then why didn't you mention it the entire time?
Right.
Okay, then he explained, Jonathan did, publicly, Israeli military and intelligence leaders have come out and said, we don't have any more military objectives here. We think we should accept a ceasefire.
Right.
We should get the hostages out. Netanyahu goes, I don't care about the stupid IDF, and I don't care about military. I don't care. Certainly doesn't care about intelligence. He knew about October 7th, didn't do anything. The most incompetent, warmonger, disgusting leader right now, destroying his own country, having the entire world hate Israel, continuing this war when everyone wants it to end, including an enormous percentage of the Israelis. But no, he's our roadblock and we can't get rid of him, and he's obviously lying. But guys, there's one other person to blame here. And so we're gonna be honest with you guys in a way that most of media isn't. Joe Biden is massively to blame.
Yep.
Massively. He's basically causing this. Why? The answer is super simple. Threatened to cut Israel's funding. I know, again, if you grew up in America and you got brainwashed by American media, you're like, oh, is that allowed? Isn't that some sort of violation of the Bible or sacrilege? Or is that a violation of our Constitution? Don't we have to give Israel everything they've ever asked for without ever saying endangering a single dollar? Otherwise, isn't the whole country anti-Semites? No, there is no such rule. And by the way, guys, we're asking for the simplest thing, not to even cut the funding, to threaten to cut the funding unless you do a ceasefire deal. And then if they don't do a ceasefire deal, why are we paying them to disagree with us, to create a war we have to fight, and that Israelis don't even want? So if you can't do the bare minimum, I mean, if you're the president of the United States and you don't use that leverage, you're screaming to the world, I don't care about a ceasefire at all. I don't care about any Palestinian lives. This man Netanyahu, I work for him, I worship him, so I'm never gonna cut a single dollar from him, and I'm a sellout liar. Okay, but media, go ahead and kiss Biden's ass and pretend that he's trying to do something. Aren't you guys sick of lying to your audiences? Doesn't one of you just want to say, well, obviously if you threaten the funding, we'd get to the ceasefire and get all the hostages back and they wouldn't have had to die. But Biden's a giant liar who supports the warmonger, genocidal Netanyahu.
Well, we've seen what's happened to journalists who have been willing to tell the truth about what's currently going on in Israel and Gaza. So it doesn't surprise me that most of the media just kind of falls in line and goes along with the Israeli government's narrative on this whole matter. But the truth is, the Israeli public seems to be a lot more knowledgeable than the American public about what the reality is in regard to these ceasefire negotiations. I want to give you a few more comments, including Tel Aviv resident Ori Elman, who told NPR, Bibi is the prime minister, he holds the key for the deal. He can keep on putting more and more obstacles and demands, but that's not relevant. Israel's courts, by the way, got involved in shutting down the general strike that was taking place in Israel following word of the 6 bodies that had been recovered. So Israel's labor court ordered the strike to come to an end by Monday afternoon at 2:30 p.m. local time. And at that point, the main trade union that was responsible for facilitating this general strike said that it will abide by that decision and called off the strike. And so it is amazing how like the Israeli courts are more concerned about Israelis speaking out against how Netanyahu is handling this as opposed to actually doing something about the fact that Netanyahu is not engaging in these ceasefire negotiations in good faith at all. But look, that's what the reality of the situation is. And even Biden, Cenk, will have these moments of honesty. So what am I talking about? Well, take a look at the most recent example of Biden. On one hand, admitting the truth, but he never puts any action behind any of this. Let's take a look.
Do you think it's time for Prime Minister Netanyahu to do more on this issue? Do you think he's doing enough?
No.
He's not doing enough.
And neither are you.
No,
So.
but exactly. So I just love the reports where it's like, ooh, Biden, who has been very reluctant to take any jabs at Netanyahu publicly, is now saying that Netanyahu hasn't done enough. We all know that he hasn't done enough. Anyone paying close attention knows that he hasn't been doing enough. The problem is you have a United States government led by Biden refusing to use any of its leverage to essentially push Netanyahu and the Israeli government to agree to a ceasefire. And by the way, let's also just note for the record, based on Kamala Harris's DNC speech, it's very clear that she plans on continuing with the same Biden-era policies in response to Israel. So we don't really have much to look forward to in terms of new leadership, approaching this issue differently.
Look, I like Kamala Harris for other reasons, and I think Donald Trump's a danger to the world. But Kamala Harris made it very clear in the interview that she will never dare to disagree with AIPAC. She said, "Oh no, our beloved Israel. Well, I will never withdraw any dollars." And there's all this nonsense talk. I mean, Ro Khanna went on the Sunday shows this weekend and said, "Oh, she might be open to a new policy." No, brothers and sisters. You're either going to get the ceasefire now, or you're about to get a giant war in the Middle East when Iran counterbombs. Okay, and America has said take it or leave it. And so if they leave it, we're going to total and utter war, and we're going to get no ceasefire. We're going to get a lot more dead hostages, a lot more dead Palestinians, etc. So I'm not interested in her maybe changing her policies 6 months or 6 years from now.
It doesn't matter what
and
you're
it's not
interested in.
true. I like Ro Khanna a lot. He comes on here, he's an honest guy, and I'm sure that he actually believes it. But Kamala Harris made it very clear in the interview, she will serve Israel as her top priority and will never change our policies. If you're gonna change the policies, this would be the time when all these lives are on the line. So spare me your BS about, oh yeah, I'm gonna change it later. My ass you are. You will do exactly as your donors ordered, and it makes me lose faith that you will do anything on prices, housing, drug costs, etc., because you're completely and utterly controlled by donors, which is our #1 problem in this country. So I know Trump is the same and worse, I know. So look, last couple of things here involve the media. So #1, good news about the media is that it's not the old days. They can't control information getting out. So as I see interviews with Israelis, they are saying things that I have never seen Israelis say in my entire lifetime, where they're being honest about their own prime minister. They're almost asking America, for God's sake, use the leverage. Use the leverage, what the hell do you have it for, right? And so they know that Netanyahu's lying. They're clearly calling out how he's lying, why he's lying. So they know. So for you out there that are young, you might not understand why that's a big deal. In the old days, you basically just had one monolithic mainstream media, both in America, less so in Israel. Actually, Israel's press has been better overall historically. But they would put out the message, the Israeli prime minister is 100% truthful about everything, and every dirty Palestinian is a goddamn liar, and everyone would believe that. Now, Israelis don't believe it. Israelis are going, no, I saw it with my own eyes. Our leader is definitely lying. And that's an awesome development, because that means the truth is getting out. And then finally, what I would ask our American media almost to catch up to Israeli media that has oftentimes done a better job. So Israel tells you, oh, we found a bunch of dead bodies in a tunnel we were about to go into. Oh, what a coincidence. Do you want to ask, why did you find them there? How did you find them there? Were you about to raid that tunnel? Because that's what it looks like. Because the last time you raided a tunnel in June, you made a big deal about how you were such heroes and the military solution was the right solution because you could always rescue them. Well, now it looks like you didn't rescue them, you botched it, and you got them killed. So when we gave you enormous credit last time, shouldn't we now talk about how the military solution was not the correct solution, and it got those hostages killed because of your dumb plan of doing a military solution instead of doing a ceasefire? US media, where are you? No, every one of them. Oh, they found them shortly after they went into the tunnels. Oh, look at that. They were killed shortly before they went into the tunnels. Gee, I wonder why. And by the way, if you don't know, there is some good press out there, and they explain, yeah, after the raid in June where they rescued some hostages, the IDF did, Hamas put out a new order. If the IDF is coming, kill the hostages. You didn't think that was gonna happen? Okay, everybody condemn Hamas. Oh, you are terrible people. What? Yes, of course don't kill the hostages. Of course don't shoot them in the back of the head. But us yelling at Hamas isn't gonna make any difference at all. What makes a difference in saving those lives is to get to a deal where we get them back. Instead of doing these dumb strategies of, oh, I'm so macho, I'm gonna go rescue them. Well, you got them killed instead.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.